Question 34 of the Book of Questions. What was your most enjoyable dream? Your worst nightmare? I'm going to be quite literal with the word dream here. I think that most of the times that people use the word dream, they actually mean something like hope. So tell me about your dreams. They mean your hopes, what you hope to do in real life in the future. And your worst nightmare is something that you're really fearing in real life happening. But no, I'm going to go with those weird mental delusions that we experience when we are asleep, those sorts of dreams. What were my most enjoyable dreams and my worst nightmares? Well, first thing I can say with a fair bit of confidence is that I almost certainly do not know, because we forget almost all of our dreams. We dream several times during the night, and unless you wake up while you're dreaming, you're very unlikely to remember those dreams. I find that my last session of dreaming of a night, I can still be reminded of it if someone says something that, I dreamt something about that last night. But if I'm not reminded in about 12 hours, it's probably gone, and after 48 hours, it's almost certainly gone. We don't remember them because they are drivel, and the brain dumps them, and thank goodness, they're just not worth the memory cells. What makes a dream enjoyable? One thing that this puts me in mind of is that, I've never had a pornographic dream, which I consider most unfair. I don't know how common they are for other people, but I've had dreams where things seem to be going in that way. I meet a lady, we get on terribly well, things are going, but then the dream always ends, or I wake up, or something else, we go somewhere else, and it just never gets there. A type of dream that I used to get a lot when I was younger, but I don't so much, was the adventure dream. And I really quite liked those. But they were quite masochistic, strangely enough. I would fall into some filthy canal, and I'd be trying to climb out, and there are people trying to find me, and I've got to get out before they do, and I'm breaking my nails and getting all sorts of injuries. But of course, the injuries don't really hurt. You don't really feel much pain during these adventure dreams. And I tended not to get tremendously scared, because when I'm dreaming, I don't know how common this is, but when I'm dreaming, some part of me knows that I'm dreaming. Indeed, I do sometimes have the thought while I'm dreaming, this will be interesting when I'm awake, I'll be able to tell so-and-so, or I'll find a really amazing object, which I've always wanted one of these, or isn't this amazing, I never thought of, and then I'm really hoping that I've still got it when I wake up. I hope this actually exists, so I still got it when I wake up, so yeah, I know I'm dreaming. I do impress myself sometimes when I'm dreaming. Some of the creativity, so for example, I had a dream where I was being followed by it was a bit like a spy movie type genre dream, and I was being followed, and I ducked into a building where a fashion show was going on. Now, I've never in my life been to a fashion show, but I've seen them in movies, I suppose. So you have a catwalk, and people sitting either side. So I sat deliberately across the catwalk, and I could see where they were across the catwalk, and if they were to get up, there was the catwalk between me and them, and I'd be able to get away, and I can keep an eye on them. I've positioned myself well here. And that was the plot of the dream. But whilst all this was going on, there were catwalk models going up and down with amazing costumes. They were really good. I remember after waking up thinking, those costumes were amazingly good, really well designed. And they were not copies of anything I'd ever seen before. Although, weirdly enough, about 5 years later, that look became fashionable. So here we go. I was subconsciously ahead of my time. So yeah, I impress myself with the creativity, and sometimes something will happen that I don't really understand. I had one dream where there was this. We were all after this thing, and I'd finally tracked it down. I'd got into the room. There was this big, cold sort of dome room, and this central big open floor with a plinth in the middle, and this thing that was on the plinth. And I got in. I reached up and I picked it up, and it was slightly warm. And I'm thinking, what? Why is it slightly warm? That's a bit odd. But okay, never mind. Later, it dawned on me, oh right, yes, it turned out to be the fake one. So the other people had got in, and they'd replaced the real one with the fake. So I've got the fake, and they were waiting out. They must have been waiting outside, and it was a really sunny day outside. So they were waiting outside in the warm. It would have been just in their bag or whatever. And so it heated up. So when I picked it up, that was so. One part of me thinks that's amazing that all that went on subconsciously. My brain took all that into account. Wow. But the thing is that it could also be post hoc reasoning, couldn't it? It could be that my brain just got it wrong and made, oh, warm, and then had to come up with some sort of explanation. Why is that then? And when you're dreaming, what order things happen in is not always completely fixed. So yeah, I think sometimes it's not quite as amazing as it seems at the time. But those adventure dreams are enjoyable, and it's interesting that the suffering in them doesn't seem to bother me at all. One dream I've had loads of times is that I am warm and cozy, sleeping in a bed, which of course is actually what I am, but I'm surrounded by grot. So I wake up and this happened many, there's so many variants, but one, for instance, I was sleeping under a bridge in London on a winter's very wet day. And I look around me and there's litter and pigeon shit and puddles, and it's dripping, it's cold, but I'm in a warm bed, and it's strangely nice. It's strangely nice that there's the horrible world out there, but I'm cocooned in my, for the moment, safe bed. But it looks as though if I took one step outside my bed, I would be in a world of bleh. So what makes a dream good? Sometimes I have a notebook next to my bed, and sometimes I wake up and I write something down quickly. Once or twice I've sung into a recording device a dream that I dreamt, a tune that I dreamt, and sometimes they're a bit original, but usually it's a variation on a real tune that seemed original to me while I was asleep. And sometimes I write down the plot of my dream, and sometimes it's actually quite cogent. There have been times where I've gone back to sleep, woken up properly, then later in the day, in the afternoon, I read it in the cold, sober light of day and realize, well, that plot is rubbish. But sometimes I think that is actually a good plot. I could use that for a script one day. Wow, and I dreamt that. Worst nightmare. One thing I've dreamt a number of times is I've got earth, so earth and sand in my mouth, and it has this horrible taste in my mouth in the dream, and sometimes it lasts. I sort of can't get rid of that. So yes, eating earth. And sand, getting grit in your mouth and and you spit. No matter how much sand you spit out, you've still got some grit in there. That feeling, and that can be quite convincingly real. I've dreamt, and I know this is a very common dream, of getting a loose tooth. But so many times I've dreamt of a tooth being loose, and it's so realistic, it's so absolutely convincing that I think, oh no, this is actually real. And when I wake up, it's going to turn out that actually I have got a loose tooth. Again, I'm aware that I'm dreaming. I did make a video, by the way, about don't follow your dreams because they're drivel. And rather than go over that argument again, I'll just direct you to it. Why I think dreams are drivel. I don't feel that they make useful predictions. Yes, it could be that you once dreamt something that came to pass, but you've dreamt hundreds of thousands of things that didn't come to pass, and perhaps you should think about those. Worst nightmare. I've had a lot of the usual ones. I think there's one which... Oh, I've just thought of one. I was... at the time on an archaeological dig abroad, and my father was working in America, and he was jetting around the world doing lots of business deals in various places. And in the dream, I learned that my father had died. He'd collapsed and died whilst on a business trip, and he was amongst business people who didn't really know him, and so they didn't know whom to contact, and so there was a bit of delay there. And in the dream, I find out that my father had died a week previously. So it wasn't the sort of ghastly, dramatic Hollywood, he dies bloodily in front of you, improbable death. It was actually a very sort of believable, realistic, it's all sort of happened already death. And I remember finding that a little bit sort of disturbing because it was so sort of low key and believable. And I thought, oh yeah, if he did die now, it probably would be quite a few days before anyone actually tracked me down. Because I was just sleeping on I think I was sleeping on the floor of a classroom it was during the summer, so the children of the school were away, of a school that was nearby where we were digging. I don't remember receiving any post there, and there wasn't a telephone, so yeah, it could have been easily a week before I found out. And I remember, so that was sort of eerily realistic. But in dreams, a lot of the time, the senses are somewhat dulled. Normally you don't taste much, unless in my case it's earth and sand. Normally you don't smell much, and even hearing is sort of different. Sometimes I feel that I'm not really hearing in the usual vibrating airway. I'm just sort of understanding that they have said the thing, and it's in my head. It's a dream, doesn't have to make perfect sense. But anyway, I had finally got my own study bedroom. This is when I was at boarding school, and I woke up during the night, and of course everything's dark, and there I am in my room, everything's dark, and I look at the alarm clock, which had illuminated numerals on the front, or rather should have, but it was dark. And the alarm clock's not working. That's odd. So I grab it. I'm trying to see what might be wrong with it, and I can't really see properly. It's dark. So I find the little lamp which was next to my bed, which had the sort of bendy head, so I could switch it on and sort of bend the head to shine on the thing and look at it. And I prop myself up on my elbows in bed, and thought something is wrong. And I take the light and I shine it to my left, and the door to my room is just hanging off its hinges, and through that door I just see darkness. And as I rise up to look at this, the duvet, the continental quilt, starts sliding down my back, but it slides down my back faster than it should do at that angle. I feel that this is wrong, and I turn round and there's someone behind me. There's a raggedy haired, sweaty toothed type, largely in silhouette, and I think he has a knife, and he's and then I woke up, and what made it. And then after waking up, I realised, oh, hang on, in the dream, my bed was at the end of the room, and I was looking to my left at the door, but actually in real life, my bed was along the long side of the room, and so I should have been looking towards the foot of the bed to see the door, but then, of course, I would have seen the man straight away, and the jump scare wouldn't have worked. But I didn't consciously think that during the dream. I had other things on my mind. But what made that such an effective jump scare that stayed with me was the tactile feeling of that duvet sliding down my back. I felt that in a way that I tend not to feel things in dreams. That it was a sensation in the skin of a duvet. It's almost as though perhaps I had propped myself up in my sleep in the bed, such that it slid. I don't think I had, and that feeling stayed with me for the rest of the day, and even a bit of the next day, I think. So I'm not someone who has suffered terribly from nightmares. I had them, as I think most children do, when I was young. But as an adult, no. Fortunately, I don't really get nightmares. Hooray. And I think part of the reason is that I'm always aware that I'm dreaming. Anyway, does that answer your question? I hope it does. Lindybeige!